And go. How we doing out there? I'm your host, Tony Longobardi at the Life Coaches Corner. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you to the guests that are here for sharing a little bit of your time for something that I'm truly passionate about and that I love to do. I love really diving into what it is that us coaches, what drives us in this field, and what also people want to know, what people want to know from coaches. Everybody has a different perspective, right? Every coach is a little bit different. And so I'm trying to gather some different perspectives from quality coaches on different fields and really create a fun environment and give you an opportunity to ask a question. So if you have any questions, please come on sometime. Again, my name is Tony Longobardi. I'm a change coach, a change specialist, and this is the Life Coaches Corner. My guest tonight is Ed Gurowitz. And Ed, will you tell the guests a little bit about yourself and where you came from, and maybe even how we know each other, if you dare.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks for having me tonight. Um, well, I've been a coach. I was coaching when coaching wasn't cool. I started out as a clinical psychologist.
Mm.
I did a lot of group and family therapy. I had a bunch of clients who were in industry. There was a big installation nearby for a major computer company that I won't mention by name, but people then thought it stood for "I've been moved" because they moved them around so often. So there were a lot of family issues, and people came to me and asked if I could do the kind of thing I was doing in the therapy groups with their work teams. So my first work was as a coach inside organizations, which I still do, and been consulting and coaching for over 40 years. And how you and I know each other is through Mankind Project. I've been, since 2014, I've been active in the Mankind Project, and picked up an awful lot of good coaching material and methods there as well. Um, that's probably about it. I think I'd rather just have the conversation than talk about
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, sure. I love being able to hear a little bit about you and have the audience and people that are watching this also be able to know a little bit about you, because I can, toot your horn or talk about you as much as I can, but there isn't anybody better, I hope, than you that can talk about you. So what we're gonna do here is, the reason why I created this and called it the Life Coaches Corner is because there's a moment inside of every fight that is so vital, and it's only 1 minute. And so a coach will come out from their boxer's corner and give them 1 minute of coaching, pat them down, shake them, talk to them a little bit. And it's a very quick whip style of coaching that hopefully will lead their fighter to, win the next round and things like that. And so because of my boxing history and background, I have a true passion around things like that as well. So this is why I called it Life Coaches Corner, and it's going to run by 5 sets of questions. So we'll have 5 rounds of questions with 5 minutes each. And then we're going to open it up for the audience, to whoever's here, to ask their own question. Maybe something really got pulled out with them. Maybe something really tapped into something inside you that you really want to know more about. Or maybe you have some questions for yourself that you'd like to ask, and you came prepared because you know that we do this. Are you ready, Ed?
Round one.
Round one. All right. So I've asked a few times on this channel, from Principles into Practice. It's a Facebook channel. This lady named Deborah Dolby had asked, "How do you handle your own life?" Which I think is like, do you coach yourself? How do you do your own life when you're coaching other people?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah, I do coach myself, but I don't count on coaching myself. I believe that change happens over time in community
Mm.
with practice over time in community.
Okay.
So I've got a number of people around me who I count on to coach me. And that coaching can be feedback, it can be letting me know an impact I had that I didn't intend, or
Mm.
like that. I count on my wife to coach me. I count on my kids to coach me. But the key thing, I mean, to the question, how do I handle my life? Everything, I'm committed that everything is a learning opportunity. So I don't shy away from making mistakes. I don't think we learn very much from success. So, I could live very, very carefully and never make mistakes and I wouldn't grow. I don't
Mm.
think it's possible, but theoretically. Uh, but if I'm willing to make mistakes and learn from them, and one of the ways I learn from them is through feedback and coaching, um, then my life becomes oriented toward growth, called a growth mindset. I think that's the most important thing we can bring to life is a growth mindset. That, I don't dwell personally on what's wrong with me. I don't encourage the people I coach to dwell on what's the question, what's wrong with me. First of all, I don't think anything's wrong with you.
Mm. Mhm.
You're a child of God, and God doesn't make junk.
Mm.
Secondly, there are we all have purposes in our life, whether we realize it or not. We've either got default purposes, and those are usually not real healthy. Those are like prove myself, cover up that there's something wrong with me, things like that. Or we've got purposes we designed. I designed a purpose for my life a long time ago. It's evolved in the form, but it's always been along the lines of treating people, of contributing to people and contributing to making the world a more equitable place. So, how do I live my life best I can?
Yes. Great ending. Great ending. And you said a lot of amazing things in there. And one of the things, growth mindset, I think is a huge term that in today's world, just looking at what that means. And you started out with change happens with persistence and
With
community.
practice over time in community.
That's
So you've got
awesome.
to have practices.
Yeah, for
I don't care if
sure.
it's yoga or meditation
Hmm.
or running or exercise,
Hmm.
but you've got to have practices because I mean they got to be something that's beneficial to you. Smoking is a practice, but it's dumb. My opinion. My opinion. Um,
I
but
smoked
with
for
it,
8 years. No thanks.
I smoked longer than you did.
Yeah.
Uh, with with a practice that's beneficial, you're going to get one of two things.
Yeah.
You're going to get the benefit of the practice, or you're going to get the benefit of looking at what's stopping you. I didn't practice today. What stopped me? Where am I stopping myself? Because nothing ever stops me but myself.
Mm, I love
I
that.
knew a guy, good friend of mine, he's passed on now, who ran every day for 365 days. Every single day he ran, and he ran a couple of miles. I don't remember how long it was, but he ran in the rain, he ran in the snow, he ran when it was hot, he ran when it was cold, just because he wanted to establish that he could do anything he committed himself to.
Yeah, and that's hard.
That's very hard.
That's hard, and seeming like running 365 days would be a easy task, a feasible task. It is not.
You
Doing.
get up Christmas morning and your kids want to open the
Yep.
presents. Running on Christmas is not an easy task, but he
Yeah,
ran on
or
Christmas.
you're going on a work vacation. Maybe you're going on your own personal vacation. Maybe it's your spouse's holiday party. Maybe it's you went out too late with your spouse at their holiday party. There's a multitude. Maybe you got sick. There's a multitude of excuses that we can make to keep us from completing that task. And we'll
And
fit. Go
yep,
ahead. Yeah.
exactly. Stu did all those things,
Awesome.
including running when he was sick.
Yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
and what he found out was, he would tell me that he'd be lacing up his shoes and saying, I'm not going to run today.
And
And
if
then he
we could
was,
channel that in our lives,
but that's the thing. You
yeah.
find out you're bigger than your reasons. You're bigger than your excuses.
Mm-hmm.
You're more powerful than whatever's reasonable. It's raining
Yeah,
out. I shouldn't run today.
totally, totally. The microcosm of putting on your shoes while you're telling yourself you're not going to do it. But as you expand that out, going to work when you hate going to work, going to a partner's recital because they love that you be there, even though you hate it and you told her, whatever, going to kids' games, all of these things that we could be doing that we don't want to do, but it's just that mentality of making the choice, being bigger than our
Going
excuse.
out for the next round.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. That's a lot of great stuff that was said. And there's an underlying thing that I really don't want to go to the next question. I really need to, but I don't want to go to the next question. The underlying thing that you said in there too, throughout the whole entire was you talked about mistakes, talked about failures, and you
Mm-hmm.
talked about getting comfortable with those because we don't learn anything or don't learn as much with success, right? So will you speak more to
Exactly.
that a little bit about what that means?
Well, for one thing, you have to take the emotional charge off of mistakes. A mistake, look, I'm Jewish. The word for sin, that usually gets translated as sin from Hebrew, really means missing the mark. You
Okay.
shot an arrow, it missed the mark. That's all it is. It's not forever, it's not wrong, it doesn't prove anything about you.
Okay.
It's just simply you missed the mark on that one. Now, if you miss the mark and you don't look and see, well, where was my aim off? What did I not account for? The wind, whatever, then you're not going to learn anything from it. And mistakes are a learning opportunity. That's their function. That's why we make them.
Yeah.
Because we've got a goal, which is to hit the mark. We've got an intention that's driving that goal. And we missed. Good. What can I learn from that?
So awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing a little bit about that. I thought that was a good piece in that answer. And I wanted to clarify that a
Thanks.
bit. Hold on.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll move on to the next question. In the same forum, this Kavita Dio had asked, how do I reinvent myself from time to time and how to notice it's time for change?
Kavita put in that question. Did I
Yep.
get it right?
I
Kavita,
think so.
Kavita. There. The problem is reinvention is not a from time to time thing. Uh, so you don't ever know when it's time. If you're committed to reinventing yourself, you're reinventing yourself in every moment. What you need, see, reinvention has got to be moving towards something, not moving against something. So it's not about fixing yourself. It's not about um, something's wrong with you. It's, hey, in fact, I have a colleague, Tracy Goss, wrote a book, Last Word on Power, which is all about reinvention. And I used to
Awesome.
lead the executive reinvention program with her back when there were programs where people actually went somewhere and touched each other. Um,
So long
and
ago.
people who came to that program, they were successful. This was a program for high level executives. It was very expensive. And companies would send, one company that grows tomatoes sent almost their entire executive team. Another supermarket chain did. And the reason they sent them was because they were successful. And when you're successful, you can say, I want to direct that success in a certain direction. That's what reinvention is. It's changing who you are. It's moving from competency or success to high performance.
Okay.
And that's an all the time thing. You're always asking
Yeah.
yourself. First of all, you set a new context for yourself. So my context has been up till now. I wanna get promoted and make a lot of money. That's been my purpose. Now I'm saying my purpose is I want to serve people. I want to help people, whatever it is. So against that new context, you're continually asking yourself, how am I doing? How can I improve that last interaction? How can I make it more about serving the person I was interacting with and less about getting them to produce more tomatoes? Um, so, Kavita, I invite you to look at reinvention as an ongoing process rather than an occasional event like now I'm reinvented and I'm going to be that way for a while. No, you constantly growing. That's a growth mindset.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. So how when we're thinking about reinvention, it's not a start and stop process. Is that correct?
Well, it starts and,
Thanks for
and it
clearing that up.
and it stops whenever you say it stops.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to be 78 years old next week. I have
Happy
never been
birthday.
retired. I'm not going to retire. And that's not because I love working. I don't love working any more than anybody else does. It's because if I were to stop doing what I do, let's say I went and sat on a beach in Hawaii, that's a good idea. Um, my life would have no purpose. I would simply be retirement to me. This is just me now. I'm not telling anybody else how to live their lives. But retirement to me looks like waiting to die. Well, I'm going to die anyhow, so I may as well work myself to death. Because in working myself to death, I'm fulfilling on my purpose. So reinvention started for me when I realized that I was looking for the meaning of life, and that the transformation for me was realizing that I have to bring meaning to life. I'm not going to get meaning from life. So that was the start. Now I'll tell you when it's going to end. Approximately 20 minutes before I assume room temperature. That's where it's going to end. But it can be a start and stop process. You can take vacations. You can coast for a while. It's not my style. Doesn't work for me.
Hmm. It's very inspiring to hear that as well, because I think the social idea and the social construct says you have stages of life, and retirement is included in the stage of life. And to break that model, that threshold, I think is awesome. That's
Well,
it.
and, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If somebody chooses to retire, they want to play golf, they want to go fishing, they want to do
Yeah.
all those things. That's their choice. I'll honor it. I will honor it. Just like if one of my business associates goes on vacation, I don't call them, I don't email them. They're on vacation. I'll honor that. And I expect them to honor it if I take a vacation because vacations are important. At the same time, I'll tell you a story about my father. He retired. And I called him up and I said, "How's retirement going?" He says, "Oh, it's great." He says, "I mowed the lawn, I washed the windows, I put up the screens." I gave me a whole list of stuff he had done. I said, "That's great. You're keeping busy." He says, "Yeah, but what am I going to do tomorrow?"
Yeah. You did all the stuff. Now what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. It's awesome to see that an inspiring story about aging too, right? Because one of our next questions is about that. But we don't have to retire. It can be an option, but we don't have to. It's not a
That's right.
forced on thing.
You have to age.
Yeah,
You don't have to get old.
that absolutely. I love that. And you don't seem old at all there, Ed.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move on to the next question. Abraham Ayandi from the same group forum. There was a lot of really great questions. I think I pulled 100 questions from this forum. It was
Wow.
awesome. It was awesome. It was a lot of work too. So thank you for that.
I'm sure.
So this one he asks, I think he or she asks, how to control my negative thoughts and create positive ones that drive me forward.
Mm.
Ding ding ding.
So there's a couple of things to unpack in there. One is, it sounds like, I don't know what Abraham was thinking, but it sounds like there's an idea there that Negative thoughts hold you back, and positive thoughts drive you forward. Here's the deal: thoughts are just thoughts. The Buddhists call it monkey mind because it just grabs onto whatever's. It's like, cat with a ball of string.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have thoughts that feel bad, that somehow don't leave us feeling good. We call those negative thoughts. My question would be, how's that negative thought contributing?
Mm. Okay.
See, I didn't have that thought by accident. Yeah, they just pop up, but I didn't have it by accident. So how can that thought contribute to my moving forward?
Or not.
So,
Right?
or not,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
but I'm committed to moving forward.
Mm. Okay.
So, thoughts, whatever thoughts I have, can contribute to my moving forward. So I have a thought: so and so is a bad person. I don't like him. Well, that's interesting. I can walk around thinking so and so is a bad person forever. Or I can look and see, what does that thought show me? Jung said, anything you see in another person that you don't like is a reflection of yourself. So, what can I learn about myself
Mm-hmm.
from the thought I had about that person or that job or that bicycle, whatever it is? Um, what I love in the question is that it reflects a commitment to moving forward. See, that I don't know Abraham, but I'll tell you that he is somebody I can tell you right now who's committed to moving forward and knows he's committed to moving forward. See, I think everybody's committed to moving forward. Some people don't know it and they get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the answer to the question, how do I keep my negative thoughts from moving me forward, is get a coach and talk to the coach about your negative thoughts and learn together how those negative thoughts move you forward rather than assuming they're not.
True. True. Because they could really be inspiring you to do something. You just may not know what yet.
Or something you don't want to. So if there's something I don't want to do that needs to be done,
Mm-hmm.
then I got to look at that. I got to look and see what that is holding me back. One of two things: either I think it needs to be done, but it doesn't.
Okay.
There's something like my ego, like proving something, that's driving that, or there's something in me that I haven't yet gotten bigger than that stops me.
Awesome. Awesome. It's tough because negative thoughts are contributors too, right? Sometimes they fuel my fire, and sometimes the negative things that I think about myself are what fuels me to change in the right ways that I need to. And so they are moving me forward, actually. And I don't,
Exactly.
and sometimes the positive thoughts, stagnate me and make me just, I think that everything's okay. And just like we talked about the last thing, the mistakes are the best teachers. They're going to teach you the most about what you need to do. The negative
You just,
things, go ahead.
sorry, Tony, you just said something really interesting. They make me think everything's okay. No, they don't. They're a reaction to something that you think is not okay. See,
Okay.
if everything okay is okay is the context. Great line from the movie The Indian Hotel, the
Mm,
Hotel Marigold, the best
okay.
exotic Hotel Marigold. He says, everything turns out okay in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not okay, it's not the end.
Mm.
So if something looks not okay, that shows me something to work on.
Yeah.
If I have positive thoughts, well, that's just what I'm supposed to have because everything turns out okay in the end. So I'm just going to keep moving. It's not that I think there's anything wrong with positive thoughts. It's positive thinking that I have a problem with because positive thinking is a reaction to negative thinking.
Mm-hmm. There's a big new term in today's generation. Have you heard it around positivity?
Positive
Toxic,
psychology?
toxic positivity.
No, I haven't heard that. Tell me.
So I don't know the exact definition. I think that in certain circles it's going to mean something different. But as we're talking about positivity and the impact or not, the way I see toxic positivity is it's a space where only positive talking and niceness and only positivity is allowed. There is nothing outside of the positive realm that's allowed, which creates this like vacuum, right? This sphere and container
Yeah.
where objective thinking isn't allowed.
So if I say this sucks, that's not allowed.
It's
What
not
if I
allowed.
say I'm positive this sucks?
Nope, not allowed. Nice
But it's
try.
positive. Yeah. No, seriously. I read an article this morning, in fact, that was really interesting. It said that we're living in a time, I think it might have been in the New York Times, I don't remember. We're living in an age when we have relative truth. So I've got my truth, you've got your truth, and your truth is supposed to be okay, and my truth is supposed to be okay, even if they're diametrically
Mhm.
diametrically opposed.
Right.
The problem with that is if they're diametrically opposed, one or both of them is not true.
Mhm.
Because truth is objective, it's facts.
Mhm.
There's a there's a pen here. That's not a matter of opinion.
Mhm.
But what happens if your truth is okay, and I can't criticize it, and I can't talk about it, because that'd be negative, and my truth is okay, and you can't. So what do? I go find people who agree with my truth, and we talk about how wrong your truth is. Now, is that starting to sound a little bit like the United States right now?
Feel like I've heard that before somewhere, or
Yeah,
even seen that before somewhere. Pretty recently, pretty
yeah.
common. Yeah, yeah, great metaphor, great metaphor. Thank you for sharing about that, and I hope Abraham got a good answer.
I hope
And
so.
I hope they'll come on and watch this and maybe even engage with you further. Like, I really like that. I had more questions about it. Part of this is about that.
I'm
You
easy.
know,
I'm easy to find. I got
yeah,
6 different emails.
awesome. Thank you. Okay, and one of my friends actually from my own feed had asked a question when I was proposing some questions about coaches, and she had asked. Her name's Kim. Amazing, amazing woman. I miss you, Kim. Hopefully you watch this. She asked, "How do I go about figuring out what the next phase of life is?"
Listen, listen.
Yes. Yes.
You see, the next phase for you is what's in front of you. Whatever there is to do that's in front of you right now is your next phase. There's things that will stop you from knowing what it is. One of them is dwelling on the past.
Mm.
All the resentments from the past, all the wrongs you did, the regrets, and all the wrongs people did to you, that whole history. Clean it up. If something you did to somebody still bothers you, go back to them and apologize. By the way, the 12 steppers have got this right. Make Take
Make
a
amends.
ruthless moral inventory and make amends.
Yep. Yep.
But then go on, then move on. And not, you got your purpose. That's setting the context for your life. Within that context, it's like an energy field. What's next will show up. You just have to be watching for it and not have pictures about what it's supposed to look like. Because it may look like a swamp. It may look like something ugly. It may look like something you don't want to do. It may look like um, something you're afraid to do. In fact, that's a pretty good indicator. Um, so if you're listening,
Mm.
life, the universe, God, I don't care what you call it, bear in mind that the Supreme Being never named itself. We named it, God or whatever. But whatever that is, whatever's the force driving the universe, is on your side. And it will teach you what you need to know. You just have to be willing to learn. And that's hard because you know, Tony will tell you when he learned to box, he took a few really good shots.
Mhm.
You know, when I learned to ski, I took some nasty, nasty falls. And that's how you learn. With practice, over time, because it's not going to happen overnight, in community. So you pick something. If what you pick is the next phase that life has in mind for you, you'll know because you'll move forward and there will be no resistance out there to it. There will be resistance in you, maybe. But if you pick something that is off purpose, life will let you know real quick.
That's a way of doing that, right?
It does. It does. And oh, one other thing.
Mhm.
This is Kim, right?
Kim. Mhm.
Kim, if you haven't already done it, just find out what your core values are. So, you know, you got all kinds of values and things you like chocolate ice cream or something. But there are certain values, probably not more than 4 to 6 of them, that are core. That if if somehow you lost one of those values, you wouldn't recognize yourself. It wouldn't be you. It would be somebody else who happens to be named Kim, but it wouldn't be you. So part of that inventory is I would discover. So I know my core values. The absolute top one is justice,
Mhm.
then integrity, then working hard. I'll stop there.
Mhm.
If if there's any suffering in my life, I look to see what core value or values am I violating. And if somebody else looks like they're causing me suffering or I don't approve of them, I ask myself, what core values of mine are they violating? Because it all starts here. So if you want to know what your next phase is, move move in in the direction of your core values, especially that top 1, 2, 3. And if you get resistance, if you get suffering, if you get drama, then look to see which core values you're violating.
Awesome. Awesome. And I love how you just say, listen, listen. Ah, God, that's all we got to do sometimes is just listen. Amazing. Amazing stuff. So thank you so much for that. I hope Kim got what her question answered. And I think that was amazing. I sometimes I struggle with my own core values. So maybe that's a good practice too, right? Maybe if you're struggling, finding out what the next phase is, find out what your core values are and then chase those down.
And there was just a question put in chat by
That,
someone with the same last name as mine. I don't know how that happens.
mm,
It's my daughter.
no.
Um, and she's studying to be a life coach. And she says, how do you define success as a life coach? How do you know if you're successful?
Take it
I
away.
had a I had a coaching session right before this call with somebody I've been coaching for several months, and I would have to say it's not been easy. He's been struggling the whole
Mhm.
time, and today he came in and he said, "I was I won't tell." He was doing something. He saw himself on a video, and the thought came to him, "How can anybody love that guy?" So he looked into it a little more, and he said he actually engaged with the video to see what was missing, what was, and he saw that the person in the video had all their attention on themselves
Mm.
and didn't communicate any degree of caring or interest about the person they were talking to. And literally, I swear to you, Tony, a light went on for this guy. He now he's been stuck in relationships. He's been, you know, and he sees the key to moving forward. Back to Kim's question, to the key to the next phase is learning how to listen in a way that centers the other person, not himself. Katie, it's those kinds of insights, those kinds of breakthroughs that the client, I never know if it's working. I assume it's working until proven otherwise.
Well, that's all we got to go on, right? Because we don't
Right,
know until
exactly.
we until it works or doesn't. So
Because
most times.
sometimes, you know, I used to use a metaphor. It's a little gruesome, but that with the best coaching, the person who's being coached swallows a grenade.
Mhm.
It's gonna go off. You just don't know when or
Yep.
where. For this guy, it was watching a video. Everybody else, it's, you know, watching the sunset, whatever it is. But you know, because your clients, first of all, so let me be a little more rigorous about it.
Sure.
Anybody I take on, executive coaching, life coaching, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
We establish metrics up front. 6 months from now, because I tend to work in 6 month contracts, 6 months from now, what's going to be different that we can both see, that's observable and measurable, not how you feel, but what's going to be different in your life? Progress toward those outcomes.
Mhm.
And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking those are goals, and you told me goals narrow things down. No, they do, but you still got to have milestones along the way, or you can't know if you're making any progress. So they're not goals like when this happens, I'll be done. It's when this happens, I'll know I'm on track. That's how you measure success. And thanks for the question.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for the question. So the last question that we have from my friend Richard back home asks, how do you achieve being a life coach? And it's awesome that your daughter came on too, because she's maybe in the same process. So maybe you could share a little bit to that. Maybe she wants to share a little bit as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Richard. Richard?
Richard. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Richard. I fell into it. You know, I was a therapist. I began applying. I was trained in all kinds of therapy, individual, group, family, the whole 9 yards. And I began applying what I learned in organizations. The, there's not a lot of difference between executive coaching and life coaching. The difference is what people bring as what we used to call it in psychology talk, a presenting problem.
Mm.
So one way to do it is to get trained, to go through the training of one of the coaching federations,
Mm.
ICF or one of those.
Mm.
I never did that because they didn't exist when I was coming up. In fact, I trained a lot of those guys. Um, but you know, it's valid. They're teaching valid stuff, and it's good stuff. Now, here's the problem. One of my favorite quotes, and you can tell by now that I like quotes, but one of my favorite quotes is from Charlie Parker, the musician. They asked him, you know, he's probably one of the greatest jazz musicians ever. He was asked in an interview, you know, how do you do that? How do you play like so much better than everybody else? And Parker said, there's two parts to it. First, you learn your instrument. Then you forget all that shit and just wail.
Mm.
And people who are unsuccessful get stuck in only one of those. Some people never stop learning their instrument,
Mhm.
and they do it by the book. You can't coach by the book. It's like painting by
Yep.
numbers.
Right. That makes so
Okay.
much sense.
Other people think they can just go in and wing it,
Mhm.
but that doesn't work. You've got to understand people. You've got to understand what some system. It doesn't matter what it can be. Uh, uh, Psychology. It can be sociology. It can be social work. It can be, um, you know, the work we do in the Mankind
Mhm.
Project.
Mhm.
It can be Stoicism as a philosophy. But you've got to have some framework in which to work. So my answer to your question, Richard, is first you learn your instrument, and then forget all that shit and just wail. because the techniques will be there when you need them.
And I know Richard well. He's a smart guy and has a lot of potential if he chooses to go into this field. And maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Definitely, that's some great advice. I think, I don't know who said it. I wish I could remember the quote, but somebody asked him, "How did you get so good at this?" And he said, "I failed more times than everybody else."
Edison. Edison.
Edison, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, Edison failed, I forget how, some amazing number of times
Mm-hmm.
before he came up with the light bulb.
The light bulb. Mm-hmm.
You know, Babe Ruth struck out 777 times. Absolutely, you've got to. Thank you for that. You've got to be willing to fail. That's
Mm-hmm.
the other piece. You've got to care
Life
about
coach.
people, especially a life coach. You've got to
Yeah.
really care. Now,
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. Here's the essence of it. People come and they say, "This is what my life is. I'm this, I'm that. I'm lovable, I'm not lovable." You got to be able to see past all that, past the mask. Because my friend Ashanti Branch has a program called A Million Masks. And what he does is he does an exercise. If it's in person, he actually has a mask where you put, let's say, a white mask and you write on it what you want the world to see. Then on the inside of the mask, you write what you're hiding. You got to get behind the mask, both sides of the mask. You've got to be able to see people and see somebody that's great. And coaching, one way of saying it is coaching is about holding people up to their greatness, to see to remember, be there standing for who they are when they forget.
Love that.
And that's executive coaching, that's reinvention, that's life coaching, doesn't matter. Psychotherapy, all the same. You've got to be able to see, you've got to train yourself to see greatness in people, not see it when it isn't there. It's always there.
Yep, everybody has it. Awesome.
It's always there. And so you discover that greatness. You feed it back to them as a coach. They say, "I don't know, that's not me. What are you talking about? That's a bunch of positive stuff that you..." No. And you stand for it. You accept anything they bring you. You welcome anything they bring you. And you stand for their greatness. So that's, Richard, that's a better answer than the first one. Just
cut the first one.
Forget the Charlie Parker shit. Just remember that last part.
I think that one's gonna stick with me. You hold people up to their own greatness.
Right.
That's huge. That's huge. All right, and thank you so much for answering those questions. I'm gonna have a little bit of time. I want to open it up to the audience that's here. We have a few people here. Does anybody have a question? Now, we don't have a lot of time, so come on, hit them with it. If you need some water.
I don't give short answers.
It's all right. It's all right. It was beautiful stuff. So if you're here, unmute, jump on it, ask a question.
Tara, hi.
Hi, how are you, Ed?
Nice to see you. I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for some of these great bits of information that you provided.
Only some of them?
Well, I try to keep up with notes and listen at the same time.
I'm taking your time. Ask your question.
All right. So I wanted to ask a question that is more specific to your background with diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, my house is busy this time of night.
It's welcome. It's fine.
So for a new coach, right, stepping into the industry, I'll be working with many different people, many different backgrounds. From a diversity and inclusive space, what advice can you give for building a practice that is inclusive? Where do I start with that? And how do I present myself as someone who is respectful of all people, whose attention and focus is to be inclusive.
Very good. First of all, I can't answer you really specifically because I've never been a Black woman. And I don't know your experience. And I don't mean experience like what you've learned. I mean your experience,
Sure.
your life experience. If that's the field you want to go into, know that you're taking on an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm.
When I do diversity and inclusion work, and my company is called Better Man Movement. Look us up. It's under bettermanconference.com. My partners and I, and we're 4 men and a woman. Okay. Our view is anti-racism is not Black people's work. It's white men's work. And homophobia is not LGBTQ people's work. It's men, white men, straight men's work. You getting sensing a theme here?
Yes.
The people who you've got to get to, and I don't mean you personally, but in order
Right.
to do that kind of work effectively, you've got to get the people with power and privilege to see, and I'm going to give you a kicker in here that's going to make it even harder, but you've got to get them to see that it's their own unconscious bias and their own unconsciousness of their own privilege that's holding the system in place, because it's not a personal thing. It's institutional, systemic racism, systemic homophobia, etc. How to do that is you've got to create an environment that's free of shame and blame, that allows people to take an honest look at themselves. And that's the game I've chosen. That is my phase for the last 10 years, has been 90% of my work. Okay. So I'm not going to tell you it's not satisfying or it's not great and it's what's needed and wanted. I'm just going to tell you, find other people who feel the way you do. See, I think the hardest thing you could do is take a job in a company where, even if it's a small little startup, where you're the only diversity person. Because when I see a company has like a chief diversity officer, that's good. Except I want to make sure that they haven't smokestacked diversity into its own little silo. We got that handled. Tick that box. Now we can go on and like that. And Tara, I'll make you an offer. I'd be happy to talk with you about the work we've done and introduce you to some people in different companies and stuff like that. So just add at bettermanconference.com.
I really appreciate that.
By the way, my daughter will tell you I don't make offers I don't mean. So I want you to feel free to contact me.
I will. I appreciate that, because as you can imagine, being a Black woman, and I appreciate you acknowledging that you can't speak to my experiences, but the space that we're in, diversity and inclusion is important. But
it's the only thing it is.
It is such an uphill battle. So
hey.
On
the other hand, we're winning more battles than we're losing, than we used to. At least, I don't know if we're winning more than we're losing, but we're winning more than we used to.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Be of good cheer. Be of good hope. Yeah. As long as there's people like you, we will win.
We will win. Thank you. You will be here.
Tara.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Sarah. Yeah, and please connect with Ed if you need any help with that. I can be a great middle person to support that and facilitate that connection, because I would love more of this being offered and more of this being available. And what Ed does is amazing. I can vouch.
And if anybody watches this video and you think, gee, I wish I was there, would he have made me that offer? Yeah, I would have. Just contact me.
And
Just
how
tell
do
me
we
saw
contact
the
you?
video.
How do we contact you?
Ed at bettermanconference, all one word, .com.
Boom. Boom. I don't know how many you'll get, but
or contact my friend Tony, and he'll put you in touch with me.
yeah, go ahead, please. I would welcome it, and I would love to support and facilitate more people in the diversity and inclusion conversation, coaching, businesses,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Let's talk. Maybe we do a diversity and inclusion coaches corner together.
Beautiful.
I'm down for it.
Awesome. And we're going to close. I don't want to cut this conversation short, but I do want to close this session. Thank you to Ed. Any final words before we go, Ed?
Yeah, there's only two things to say when all is said and done, and usually more is said than done. There's only two things to say, and that's thank you and I love you.
Love you, Dad.
Love you too, sweetheart.
Oh, I hope my son does that when he gets older. Jumps into my shows. That's awesome. Thank you to everybody who shared their time with us. Thank you to watching this and being a part of this. Thank you to Ed for everything he gave. And stay tuned. We'll keep doing these. Great. See everybody later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.